The first light of dawn rose over the golden sands of Egypt. From the horizon, the sun of Ra, the eternal giver of life, spread its warmth over the land. Below, the Nile glittered like a ribbon of glass, winding through the desert, turning everything it touched into life. This was Egypt, the gift of the river and the dream of the gods. At the heart of this kingdom stood Memphis, city of temples and stone. Here, in a palace of white limestone and gold, lived Pharaoh Khufu, son of Ra, lord of the two lands, and keeper of balance between heaven and earth. When the Pharaoh spoke, his words were divine law. When he walked, the priests bowed their heads, for he was more than a man. He was the living bridge between mortals and gods. Life in the royal court flowed with splendor and ritual. Each morning, priests offered incense to the sun as it rose, whispering hymns that had echoed since the first dawn. In the evenings, music filled the palace. Harps, flutes, and drums wove together like wind through papyrus reeds. The queen, radiant in white linen and gold, watched from a shaded garden, her beauty a living image of the goddess Isis. Yet even among marble and incense, there was one truth none could escape: the shadow of death. For the people of Egypt believed death was not an end, but a passage, a journey to the eternal fields of peace, where the soul lived beside Osiris forever. And so, as life was celebrated, so too was death prepared. In hidden chambers, priests learned the sacred art of preservation, removing the mortal flaws so the soul could live on untouched by time. They washed the body in oils, wrapped it in endless linen, and spoke prayers to guide it into the afterlife. Beyond the walls of the palace, life thrived along the Nile. Farmers waited for the floods that would bring black earth and renewal. When the river rose, they cheered, for the water carried the promise of food and survival. Fields bloomed with barley, flax, and wheat. Children played by the riverbank, their laughter blending with the songs of fishermen casting their nets into the glittering water. Women ground grain, baked bread, and spun linen under the shade of palm trees. And when night came, families gathered around small fires to tell stories of Isis and Osiris, of Horus and Anubis, of the eternal battle between life and death. Faith filled every breath of their existence, binding rich and poor alike beneath the same endless sky. But one night, as the full moon shone silver across the desert, Pharaoh Khufu stood alone on his balcony. He looked westward, where the sun sank beyond the horizon, where his ancestors slept in their tombs of stone. And there, beneath the moon's cold light, he dreamed of eternity. He dreamed of a monument that would outlast time, a mountain built by human hands, rising toward the heavens, so that his soul might ascend to join Ra in the sky. The next morning, his command was given. The greatest monument ever conceived by man would be built upon the Giza plateau. Thousands of architects, priests, and workers answered the call. At their head stood Hemunu, the master builder, whose mind could see in sand and shadow the shape of immortality. From across the kingdom, people came, farmers, craftsmen, and laborers, to lend their hands to the pharaoh's dream. They lived in vast camps near the site, working by the rhythm of drums and sun. By day, they cut limestone from quarries, dragging blocks heavier than oxen across the sands. By night, they shared bread and beer beneath the stars, singing songs of strength and faith. They were not slaves, as legend would one day claim, but sons and daughters of Egypt, builders of eternity. The work continued through years and generations. Layer upon layer, stone upon stone, the pyramid rose from the desert like a second sun. Priests blessed each level, chanting to the gods as the ramps wound higher and higher. In the distance, Khufu watched, his eyes filled with both pride and longing. He knew that when the final stone was set, his own life would soon fade. And so, when the Great Pyramid finally reached its peak, its gleaming white sides blazing beneath the sun, Pharaoh Khufu stood before it for the last time. He looked upon his creation, his bridge to the divine, and smiled. Here was his eternity, carved by the hands of his people, blessed by Ra himself. When the pharaoh died, the kingdom mourned for 70 days. Priests wrapped his body in pure linen, placed upon his face a mask of gold, and sealed him within chambers deep inside the heart of the pyramid. They filled the tomb with treasures, food, jewelry, chariots, and the sacred texts that would guide him through the darkness of death. Then the doors of stone were closed, and silence fell. Outside, the people bowed their heads as the sun rose once more over the desert. For though their king had left the world of the living, his spirit shone still in the light that touched every grain of sand.